An old religious Franciscan friar was lying on his deathbed, humming, whistling away. His superior asked him to take things a bit more seriously in his present circumstances. The friar then told him a story from his novitiate days. One day he had closed his eyes, opened the Bible, and let his finger fall into a verse, which he then took as his motto for life. And the verse said, "Judge not, and you shall not be judged." And the friar assured his superior that he had always kept his half, the first half of that promise. And so now he had nothing to fear from the judge. So why should we judge others? Because we never know all the facts, nor the whole person. Only God knows. Today's gospel relates how some scribes and Pharisees dragged before Jesus a woman whom they had caught in the very act of adultery. We don't know how they managed to catch her in the act, because in those days they didn't have the secret CCTV like today. Some say there might be a bunch of peeping toms or doms, D-O-M, that means dirty old men. These self-righteous legal experts and religious leaders were challenging Jesus to deliver his verdict. But they did this not from a sense of justice, but to publicly embarrass him and the woman. If Jesus condoned adultery, he would be openly rejecting the law, which is death sentence by stoning for such wrongdoers. He would be perceived as an enemy of the family, as a man without principles. And if he observed the law and permitted her death for adultery, he would be contradicting his own previous teaching. He would be branded a hypocrite who preached forgiveness but did not practice it. The scribes and Pharisees relished the thought that at least they would be able to trap Jesus. So, which side could Jesus take without damaging his image as both a man of high principles and also a man of compassion? As usual, Jesus was able to sidestep the legal trap laid before him. Instead of answering the question of his enemies at the impersonal level of the law, he answered it at the personal level of conscience. So he said, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Jesus challenged the self-righteous accusers to judge their own hearts. His approach was not legal like the scribes and Pharisees. It was moral, personal. And this enabled him to simultaneously condemn adultery and forgive the adulterers. Jesus' words obviously does not mean that we should do away with the justice system. Jesus' answer does not mean that because we ourselves are sinners, we are forbidden to render justice or pronounce a sentence. The justice system is sustained by the laws of the land. It has its uses and it has its limitations and flaws. So Jesus' words strike more directly the human heart. We are urged to scrutinize our intentions when we judge others or take others to court. Do we wish to right a wrong, or are we driven by anger and resentment and the desire for revenge, by want of the 8 deadly thoughts? Conscious or mindful that we are sinners ourselves, we should be very careful about judging. We should try to reconcile the demands for justice and mercy in our dealings with one another. Not easy, though. So Jesus, who is always the defender of the oppressed, was understanding and forgiving. What the scribes and Pharisees were judgmental and self-righteous. Jesus adopts a perfectly balanced position, one which is uncompromising towards the destructive nature of sin, and which at the same time is compassionate enough to give a second chance to the sinner, to challenge the sinner to spiritual renewal and growth. Sin is condemned. The sinner is forgiven. Like Jesus, we condemn the sins of adultery because adultery destroys marriages and family. Whenever adultery is condoned or treated lightly, society will soon be disrupted and reduced to what now exists in many countries. A majority of children raised by only one parent, a system which may breed social violence. However, we can take consolation that it is an understanding God who will judge us eventually, and not one of our fellow beings who are quick to condemn. Jesus reveals to us that God is infinitely more understanding and forgiving than our fellow human beings. God sees the temptations of the 8 deadly demons, which we are all subjected to. God understands the weakness of our human condition. God sees the sense of repentance in our human hearts. Sin is condemned. The sinner is forgiven. There was this man lay dying on his bed. He has held public office before, though not a major one, and he has experienced how a politician's motives and actions are always open to the sometimes wrong judgment of others. Despite his good intentions, he has made many enemies. After his confession, he said to the priest, "Father, I'm grateful for one thing, that I will be judged by God and not by my fellow man." The dying man had a point. Though we may fear to stand before God as our judge, we must remember that God is not only infinitely just, but also infinitely merciful.